Hello everyone, there's a story going around at the moment which seems to have caught people's imaginations, and it's been reported in the press and some people have asked me to comment on it. So the story is a British couple were renovating their chimney, and inside they found what turned out to be a skeleton of a World War II carrier pigeon, and attached to its leg was a little red canister which curled up inside was a secret coded message. Now this is quite unusual for these carrier pigeons to carry coded messages. So it was sent to GCHQ, which is the code breaking arm of MI5 and MI6, to see if they can decode this message and find out what that message says, to read that message for the first time in 70 years. Now they came back and they concluded that it's going to be very difficult to break, if not impossible. Now I'm going to leave the actual message at the end of the video if you want to try it, but I want to try and explain why it's going to be a very difficult code to break. They think the type of code used was something called a one-time pad cipher. Now you may have tried codes and secret messages yourself as a kid, and what you might have tried is to shift the alphabet one place across. So A becomes B, and B becomes C, and C becomes D, and so on. Now you could have shifted the alphabet 2 places across, or 3 places across. In fact, you could shift the alphabet any number from 0 to 25. Now that's a very easy code to break. There are 26 ways to do it, and you just check them one at a time, and the one that makes sense is working. Now the one-time pad cipher is a very similar idea, but you shift each letter of the message a different amount. So if I want to send the message hello, what I do is I make a key that is the same length as the message itself. So that would be just 5 numbers. I would then add those numbers to each letter of the message, which would shift the letter a different amount, and I would make my code. Now if I want to decode that, the other person would have the same key, and then they would subtract that shift from each letter of the code to get the original message back again. Now why is it called a one-time pad cipher? The idea is you would have to have these pads of random numbers, and you're only supposed to use these once. In fact, instead of having random numbers, they would have pads of random letters. It's the same idea, but A is a shift of 0, and B is a shift of 1, and Z is a shift of 25. Now this is what they think was used by this carrier pigeon code. Why is this so hard to break? So each letter of the message has been shifted a different amount. Now this carrier pigeon code was 135 letters long, plus some numbers at the end which identified the pigeon itself. Now each letter can be shifted any amount from 0 to 25, so the total number of keys and the total number of ways to decode the message is vast. In fact, it is a 1 followed by 191 zeros. It's somewhere in the region of a Google squared. Even if you had a computer checking every possible key, it would take something like thousands of years to check them all. But it's even worse than that, because if you did check them all you end up doing is simply generating every possible message of 135 letters long. Some of them will make sense, a lot of them will be gibberish, but all of them will be equally likely. In fact, if you pick the right key, you can generate any message you want to. So this is what I did. I took the first 36 letters of the code. This is the actual carrier pigeon code. I took the first 36 letters. I made 2 keys to decode it in 2 different ways. The first key decodes the message so it reads, "Singing banana is better than number file." The second key decodes the message so it reads, "Number file is better than singing banana." And both of those are equally likely. In fact, in the war, you might expect messages like, "Attack tomorrow," or maybe "Nothing to report." And you can make keys that generate both those messages, and they will both be equally likely. And it's impossible to tell them apart. You don't know which one is the right answer. So the one-time pad cipher is impossible to break, and I mean that. That's 100% mathematically proven to be impossible. If you don't have the key, you'll just end up generating every possible message, and they'll all be equally likely. But it's not perfect though. So first of all, this random string of letters does need to be random, and just mashing your keyboard isn't random enough. So you can make these yourself if you want, but if you want to make it, you can pull out tiles from a Scrabble bag. Or you use some sort of naturally occurring random event, like radioactive decay, to generate your random string of letters. It's also very difficult to distribute these keys. Can you imagine in a war running around the battlefield with these pads of paper? So it's very impractical to use as well. But in the future, they hope to use something called quantum key exchange, where they'll be able to send the key using particles of light. Once you've got the key, you can then just use the one-time pad cipher in the traditional way. Now, I'm going to leave you with this code carried by this World War II carrier pigeon. But do remember, it's going to be very difficult to break, if not impossible. But that's exactly what it was meant to do. It is doing its job. And if you have been, thanks for watching.